Hey guys, this is Oracle Daphne. My name is Beth, and I am back today doing a different kind of video that I normally do. Normally you guys see my face and I'm all dialed up, but tonight I actually wanted to do a little recording to talk about love. And I just thought that this was kind of new and different, and hopefully you guys will like this style of video. So to begin with, I did some writing in my journal, and it had like this huge epiphany about what love is and what isn't. And culturally, there's so much focus on love. Relationships, marriage. It seems to be the thing that everybody wants, and we all struggle at certain times in our lives with finding it, with keeping it, with understanding what it is and what it isn't. I obviously have had many clients from all over the world who called me and asked me about love. What do I see happening with their love life? That's the number one question for pretty much everyone, male and female, across the board. I've learned from having so many clients that this is something that everybody is wanting. But I did some writing recently, and I actually came to came to the determination that it's the universe's challenge to everyone. Love is the challenge. I wrote that it's the gauntlet that's been prepared. It's the challenge, it's the obstacle course. For those of you who don't know what a gauntlet is, it's an obstacle course. And I was writing in my writing says that the universe supports love, but only if we allow it. If we can overcome our issues. And some of these issues, like some of you will know, but some people have inner child issues, financial issues, poverty issues, unworthiness issues, and abandonment issues. These are like the top issues that people have that blocks them from love. And this is the obstacle course that we're dealing with, because one way or the other, for those of you, who are listening to this, I'm sure some of you have had either issues with finances or know someone who's had issues with finances, have felt maybe low self-esteem or felt maybe unworthy at certain times in their lives. So, and for me, my biggest issue has been my inner child. And that there's a thing where in our brain we may consciously want love and we may want to have a relationship, but then unconsciously we're scared. Unconsciously we have these inner child issues. Unconsciously we're like, no, we need to have some kind of financial security first. Unconsciously we don't feel like we're worthy, and unconsciously like there's this, and I'm pretty sure everybody across the board has abandonment issues. I have not come across a person who doesn't have abandonment issues. So across the board, everybody has some like tiny little bit of abandonment issues where we're afraid to be alone. And I think honestly that comes from a fear or a knowledge that we're going to die someday, that all of us are going to die someday, and that we're going to have that final separation from others. But really it's just kind of an illusion, because when we die, obviously we go into this other place where there are other souls. So it's not like we're going to be alone there either. So abandonment is an illusion. And I'm probably going to do another video and talk about abandonment later. But so to begin, going back, the universe's challenge for everyone is love. But we have these major challenges to overcome consciously, but also unconsciously. And then moving on to the second part of what I wanted to talk about was there's this animal part, because we are, part animal. We have an animal nature, a physical body. And there's this animal part of what we find attractive in someone else. And some of us limit culturally. We have been taught to limit what is attractive. Culturally, we've been taught to limit who we need to end up with. And it's this very picture perfect male and female top of the wedding cake thing. And that's not how it goes. How it goes is your soulmate, if you're female, could be another woman. And your soulmate, if you're male, could be another male. And some of you may write this off completely and be like, she's totally lost it. I don't want to hear about the gender thing. I don't want to hear about the, gay lesbian thing. But you know what? Here's the truth. The truth is that it's not limited. Love is not limited to just this happily ever after, perfect, idealistic, lifestyle, or perfect relationship or perfect person. So there's that. And they just don't teach that in school. They don't teach it in school that, if you dated another girl and you're a girl, you might actually enjoy the experience. And if you dated another guy and you're a guy, you might actually connect with that person. Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to go and do that. But what I'm saying is some people are limiting themselves to a certain type or certain ideal or certain cultural standard because of what they think they ought to do, because of what their family wants them to do. And there's this pressure to live up to maybe society's expectations or cultural expectations, or, people don't want to be, some people do not want to be seen as bisexual. Some people do not want to be seen as gay or lesbian. They don't want to be seen that way because they're scared that they're going to get pigeonholed. And the crazy thing is that I've talked to so many people, and there are people still to this day that do pigeonhole others. And there's a reason why people choose not to identify or choose not to explore their options. And I think that in the challenge that the universe has laid down for everybody is to explore those options. That's the challenge. Because really, if we're all wanting love, what's stopping us? What is holding us back? I mean, really, is it, us trying to find that perfect someone? Or really, is it ourselves saying, limiting ourselves, saying, well, I couldn't possibly do that, or I couldn't possibly explore something, It's so interesting because a lot of times people, the answer is right in front of them. And obviously we as people don't always see everything that's in front of us. And so we're a little bit blind to what we've got. And this is, to me, this video is meant to be kind of an eye-opener, honestly. It's meant to be an eye-opener for those of you who are looking for love and who are wanting to have a better type of relationship, maybe with the person that you're, married to, or maybe you're dating. Maybe you want to have a better dating experience, or maybe you want to have something bigger than some bigger perspective than what you've been told. That's why I'm here to talk about this. So there's that. There's this animal part of what we find attractive, okay? And some of us limit ourselves. Some of it's consciously limiting, some of it's unconscious. Then there's this other issue where we were not created in pairs, other than some people believe that we're all part twin flames. And at one point in my journey, I actually thought that we were all twin flames, but I don't believe that anymore. I think that some of us have twins. I actually think that I'm part of like a triple. So like my soul has two twins, which is crazy. And I think that if for some people there could be 4 or 5, I don't know. This is one of those things that I'm still exploring. But other than people who have twin flames, and for those of you who don't know, a twin flame is a soul that's been split up because in its journey it has grown so much, and its light and its energy has grown, and that's why it's been split up. That's as far as I can understand. There's other reasons to it, obviously, but other than people who have a twin, or are a twin, or part of actually have a twin, or part of like a triplet, or they were born with more than one sibling, we have to learn to live with another person as a couple. And since we weren't really born that way, my point is we weren't really born that way. For most people, we're not born in the sense that we weren't born holding somebody's hand. We weren't born holding somebody's hand in the beach, walking down the beach of life, going through so many experiences together, growing together. We weren't holding that person's hand, or born holding another person's hand, living together with someone, picking up somebody's socks, doing somebody's dishes. We weren't, as far as I know, that just doesn't happen. So we have to learn to get along. We have to learn to hold somebody's hand. We have to learn to love somebody else. And it's a process, and it's a challenge. And in that process, we have to find compromise. We have to have common goals and interests. We have to match up sex-wise, and have a good sex life. And then there's reproduction, which is a whole nother topic unto itself. Some people wanting to have kids, some people don't want to have kids, some people want to adopt, some people don't. I mean, it's just, there's this whole other part of it that is a challenge to love, because it's a conversation that really, it's a much deeper conversation than I can go into at this time. But I just want to say that it is a challenge. It's a challenge to match up with someone who you love, and have kids and want to have kids with, and then be successful in raising those children, because raising children is hard. Let's just be honest, okay? So, I mean, how many people do you know that got married and everything was fine until they had kids? Then they had kids and they stressed out, and they no longer were sleeping with each other. They stopped communicating well, and then everything just went to shit and they got a divorce. And so honestly, this is not the story that I'm telling you that everybody has. I just feel like that's something that is a challenge to our love life, to love. And I just wanted to say that that's a huge part of it. There's also self-sacrifice for children also. And there's also cultural family ideals, which can be a blockage. Cultural family ideals is a huge, huge topic also. And then we move on to needing to overcome our self-hatred. And hatred and jealousy and resentment and bitterness and pain to others and to ourselves. This is a huge, huge obstacle for many, many people. And actually, it is super important that I talk about this, because culturally, right now, this is a major, major issue. I just feel that for there to actually be war in 2018 is ridiculous. For the crazy thing is there's TV shows, and I don't want to talk too much about them, but there's TV shows that talk about love and finding love. How is it, I question, that we can focus on love when there's a war going on, when there's multiple wars going on, when we are killing each other, literally? How is it possible that we're even still reproducing? Because in order to reproduce, there has to be some connection between two people. And this is a topic which, this is one of the things that concerns me, actually. This is one of the things that going forward into the future timeline, I feel like there's a timeline that leads to essentially self-destruction, where there's not enough balance, where there isn't enough focus, or there can't be enough focus on love, the real kind, relationships, and reproduction, healthy reproduction. Because we're too distracted. We're too distracted by other things. We're too distracted by war. We're too distracted by survival. My guide just wants me to talk a little bit for a second about how the sacral chakra, we have chakras in our body. The sacral chakra is drained by survival mode issues. So someone who's working all the time, especially females who are working all the time, it's a drain of their sacral chakra. And a lot of women nowadays, fertility is a huge issue. It's a huge topic. So there's that. So going back to this self-hatred, self-inflicting pain. And then there's also pain in itself, which we carry as a consciousness of the past. And there's also bitterness and jealousy from what other people have, which makes us feel unworthy, which then brings us back to that first thing that I talked about as being the obstacle, an obstacle to love. I could talk all day about pain. I could talk all day about people and their pain. But anger and hatred and jealousy are all big factors in that block love. Someone who's angry all the time, their love life is going to suck. Someone who's in a relationship and angry all the time, their relationship isn't going to last. It's going to be filled with so much toxicity. There's going to be cheating. There's going to be lying. There's no longer any integrity. If you're in a relationship and has any of those really negative factors, hatred, jealousy, resentment, bitterness, and pain, your relationship's going to end. Period. End of story. You can't have a healthy relationship when that is what's happening. When somebody says a relationship is toxic, that's what's happened. But here's the thing. Part of it is self-inflicted. Some of it's self-sabotage. Fears about getting close to another person. Fears about being open with another person. There was a book that a friend gave me. I think the title of the book is called Why Men Marry Bitches. And I don't really remember why I was thinking about this. I didn't really get too far into the book. And I don't remember what it said. All I know is that I was thinking about why that would be the case. And I think one of the reasons that the conclusion I came to is, for some reason, it all boils down to low self-esteem. If someone, whether it's a guy or a girl, gets into another relationship with someone who makes them feel like they're on a constant gerbil wheel to do for the other person, so the other person recognizes how special they are, but it never happens, that's sort of like the definition of insanity, okay? And we all do it. We've all done it. Why girls get into relationships with douchebags? Why? Because of low self-esteem. Because we don't feel good enough, and we don't love ourselves enough to find a healthy relationship, or to do the work and actually get into a healthy relationship, or to allow it. See, because there's a control factor, and the control factor is something else. It's part of our human nature, and there's shades of gray. Obviously, some people are really controlling, and others are not as much. And some of it's conscious controlling, and some of it's unconscious controlling, which makes it very complicated. But going back to guys with low self-esteem getting into a relationship to a woman who they can never please, who it is never good enough, a woman who takes them to the cleaners for all they're worth, and the guy still begs to be with them. How many people do you know that have gotten into relationships where the female is the devil, the female's terrible, she's not even good looking, and the guy is like totally, completely head over heels for that person, or so they think, or I don't know, and really entrenched in that relationship, and they can't break free. They can't seem to do it. Why? Just low self-esteem. The person does not think that they could find something better. So they're hoping that something's going to change. That maybe one day that female is going to wake up and see the guy for being different. But that doesn't usually happen. So what usually happens is the woman takes him to the cleaners, and the guy moves on to some other bitch. That's it. The girls that get into the relationship with the douchebags, it's the same story. How many people do you know that have gotten into a relationship with douchebags only to get into another relationship with another douchebag? How many people? So that's the issue. Low self-esteem. Not believing that it's going to happen. Settling. Women settle. There's a book about that too. Women settling. And so what does it mean for everyone? Does that mean everyone has low self-esteem? I don't necessarily believe that. I just think because some people, they're in a healthy relationship, but I think the people that struggle the most are people that do have low self-esteem. How do you get better? How do you work on self-esteem? You have to do things that make you feel good. Self-care. You have to really work on creating the boundaries, saying no, getting out of something that is not good for you, saying no, it's not good for me, and moving on. People get into circular patterns too of relationships, and that's also unhealthy. But we've all done it. So I'm not judging anyone here. I'm just saying these are the blockages to love. Let's just assume that our earth and our entire consciousness is a game. And our entire universe is a game. And the entire multi-universe is a game. And all the galaxies in the universe and multi-universe is part of the game. Our game, though, that we're playing here on Earth is about this obstacle course. And the game is set up karmically for it to be overcome very slowly, okay? Very slowly. I was thinking about this. I was thinking about how Saturn, the planet, doesn't mature until like its 30-year return, 30-year return, okay? So Saturn's the planet of karma. It's a very slow wheel. It's set up that way. The planets are set up that way. I was watching a video. I'm going to shout out to Astrology right now because her video, I was watching for one of my transits. Every now and again, I like to watch what she says about my transits and what's coming up for transits. And I think my Jupiter's trining my 7th house. And that's in October sometime, which is the house of relationships. And she was saying how it doesn't happen very much. And I thought to myself, now that's interesting. The planets are set up not to be trining your 7th house, okay? They're set up for the obstacle course for many years in between. And how many people do you know that have had 7 years of like no relationships, okay? A 7-year period of time where either they were single, or a 7-year period of time where they struggled with whether it's finances or whatever. It's a 7-year period of time, okay? And that's a long time. In human terms, 7 years is a long time to go without a relationship. 7 years is a long time to struggle with finances. 7 years is a long time for anyone, okay? Now, I get clients who, bless their heart, they'll say they have had struggles for like 20 years at a time, and that's true. For a lot of people, it's their karmic journey is not fun. But let's go back. Let's go back to the planets moving slowly. And the planets that are in favor of relationships, okay, anything to do with Jupiter, Venus, you know, the seventh house, that not happening very much. I just find it very interesting. And for women, women have, because our bodies are on this ticker, we have this window of fertility time. There's not much time to reproduce and fall in love and have a family. In the way culturally we're set up now is we're set up to go to school and work, which drains our sacral chakra. So really the time that we have as a female is much, much shorter. And I actually think, here's the thing, people are paranoid that they're going to run out of time. And I always tell people, well, women still reproduce until their, 50s and still have children at that time. And I have had clients who have had children in their, late 40s, early 50s. And it definitely has happened, and it happens all the time. But I guess what I want to say is, so I'm not trying to make anyone paranoid. It's just culturally, are the expectations for females are to go to school, get an education. By the time we get out of school, if we go to college, we're 22 years old. So between the time of 22 and 40, which is about the prime, let's just say prime reproductive years, that's not a lot of time. And then you throw in Saturn maturing, 29, 30, it could delay that. It could delay things until later. So, and my guide is showing me this. And in Native American culture, the turtle is what is the spirit guide for children. The turtle is what brings in the souls of the children. And the turtle is slow. And I love how that's a metaphor. And whether you believe that actually happens or not, I just find it interesting that it's the turtle that things can happen very slowly with a woman's, to some people, they don't get pregnant until later. So I guess I want to bring it back to karma being overcome slowly, the game being beaten slowly, us getting to a balance point. The problem is that I truly think that right now, my guide said there's been a lot of missed opportunities to make love more of a focus. And what I think they mean by that is that we make choices in our lives. And I've done this myself too, so don't worry. We've made choices in our lives to not prioritize it, to do other things. So there's all these, so it's some of it is us. And some of it is this karmic thing that's happening. And some of it's the planets. And so it's just getting down to it. If we're going to look at love, we're going to look at love being the most important thing or just really important in our lives. It's important for essentially humanity. It's important for the future of the earth. It's important for the future of us to prioritize love. I think, honestly, back in the day, there's always been an issue of survival. And there's always been the planets. There's always been the moon cycle, women reproducing. There's always been that. But I think now, culturally, we've evolved to a point where there's a disbalance. And I want you guys to understand how all of this is set up so that you can understand and be reflective in your life about how you have made choices that have blocked love in your life. Consciously or unconsciously. What have been your choices in relationships? Now, some people are in a happy 20-year relationship and they're good to go. Okay, so maybe this is not for you, but it's interesting, even for people who are in a healthy relationship, to understand this game. And some of you are going to be like, but wait, What's the point then if it's not set up to our advantage? Or if it's not set up to find love or have love. The weird thing is I always go back. I always feel weird when I say people are looking to find love. The funny thing is love is everywhere. Love is everywhere at all times. It's limitless. We can tune into it immediately. It's there. But in our culture, with all of these obstacles, the illusion is that it's not there. The illusion is that we're alone. The illusion is that we can't have love because of all these other things. The illusion is that we can't overcome this stuff. The illusion is that we have to prioritize career first, or that we have to make other choices. That's the illusion. But what's the point if there's this game that blocks us from love? Well, I wrote the simple things in life, and I truly believe that the point of us being here is the simple things. And I wrote this like little side note in my journal. 2 working feet, good health, clean sheets, a good night's sleep, a soft bed, herbal tea, long showers, Thai food, red wine, ice cream, a bird flying by, green grass, barbecues in the summer, cut-off shorts, a good kiss, planting a garden, sex, music, movies, lovers. I mean, this is like what it's all about. That's also another point that I want to talk about, that I feel like, especially after moving here to Omaha, I feel like for so many people, life is so busy. And maybe they're busy enjoying life, but there's not a lot of peace. There's not a lot of downtime. There's not a lot of time just to be alive. There's not a lot of time to appreciate the simple things. I work a lot, and so I myself don't always have the time. I try to make time, and I do appreciate things, and I appreciate my peace, and I'm able to have that because I make the time. A lot of people do this thing where they're so busy, and then finally, like after they've done everything, they're totally exhausted, then they can have their peace. And that's their choice, but again, it makes it hard because it's blocking them. They are blocking themselves from enjoying these simple things, from enjoying these things. And okay, so if we were all to kind of enjoy the simple things and have more peace in our lives and be a little bit less crazy and a little less busy and a little less preoccupied with other stuff going down and our dramas and all that stuff and our war, we would have more time for love. And love would just naturally appear and come into our lives because we would be in that space for it. Because we would be open to it. But because we're so busy, like people talk about wanting to meet someone. Well, we're going through the drive-thru to pick up coffee. We're not going in. We're, going to the gym after work and then going home, making dinner and going to bed. We're not going out. So we're just like, I say we, but I mean, this is culturally how things are going. Now, I guess, again, you could live in a completely different country where it's different. I know, like in Italy, they have like lunch. Lunch is a big deal. Everybody takes time for lunch and relaxes. And I honestly think it's a cultural thing. Here in the United States, some of us don't even get a lunch break. I was working over the winter in a restaurant where there was no lunch break. There was no break at all. This state, they don't have to allow their employees to take a break. So I came across guys who were working 2 jobs. They're working from like 5 a.m. in the morning in a kitchen until like 1, and then getting off at 1 and going into their other job at 3, and then working from 3 until 11 or 12 at night. I mean, these guys were the hardest working guys I've ever met. And they didn't break. They barely went to the bathroom. And that's how a lot of people are. And I'm not saying that everyone's like that, but I'm saying that's happening. That's going on. Okay. So it's sort of just like, in our culture, it does exist that way. Let's talk about the game itself. Okay. Let's talk about I wrote in my book that the game itself kind of sucks. Okay, with all these obstacles to love, whether they're conscious or unconscious, it just kind of sucks, because the game itself is, breeds lying, cheating, broken homes, broken marriages, broken hearts. The question that I have is, why is there so much karma right now? Why is there so much karma? Why are there karmic relationships? Why can't people get into relationships that are lasting? My guide said that there's limiting factors. There's limiting factors, and again, it all boils down to what we allow, consciously and unconsciously. If we allow ourselves to get into a karmic relationship and stay in it, then that blocks us. And that tells the universe that we're happy to stay in a karmic relationship. Again, it's a game, because we shouldn't have to overcome that challenge, but that's the way the game is set up. Now, I didn't do this video to depress people, because I truly believe there are people out there that are sweet souls that just want to have a happy long-term relationship. And I do believe that's possible. But I do also think that there's so many karmic relationships that are set up to be a certain way that it makes it harder to have this happily ever after. And there are people that have blocked so many people that in some way that they're not too picky, but like they don't want to trust anyone. They don't trust that anyone's ever going to be good. So, and that's not the case either. I always tell people that you have to play the game in order to beat the game. And by playing the game, meaning you have to understand the game, understand that this is a game, understand that the way it's set up is a game, understand that love itself is a game. And the concept of love is, from what we're taught, is the fairy tale. That's what a lot of people are taught. Now, I'm not saying other cultures may be different. I don't know. I was not raised that way. But in the culture that I was raised in, love is the fairy tale. You grow up, you get into a relationship, you get married. That's the fairy tale. And you live happily ever after. And that's not the game at all. The game that's being played right now is the short version, okay, is what I've been saying, is that essentially there's all these blockages that are set up because it's an illusion, okay, for us to overcome. We have to allow ourselves to be loving, to overcome these issues. And if we do that, then essentially we're beating the game. But you still have to play it, which sucks. And understand that the illusion is this game. The illusion is that, we can only get to love once we do all these things. Essentially, I'm telling you that some people have more blockages than others. These are just the blockages that I am aware of. There's more. There's a lot more, but this is like, in a nutshell, the main things that I think most people struggle with. Going back, some people want forever. They want a forever relationship, so they won't have a relationship that's short-term. And that short-term relationship could be the best relationship that they ever have in their entire life. There's these little windows. And for some people, their chart, because based on their chart, they're not set up to have relationships. They're set up to understand themselves, to understand life without somebody, to understand life without and my guide's showing me a little bit too, because ascended masters, basically. Ascended masters, my guide says, ascended masters a lot of times have to go through periods where it's like of isolation, where they don't have a lot of family, they don't have a lot of friends. And by going through that isolation, they become an ascended being. They become aware of themselves, they become aware of the bigger picture and other things. And it's not just about this little, idealistic life. They see outside the illusion. I wrote in my journal that I don't understand why this karmic game has made my relationship so challenging. I think that because I can't in this video explain to you all about the ins and outs of karma. A lot of it is too complicated for right now, and a lot of it is, part of it is stuff that I don't even understand. There's things that I don't understand, and I come to the wall of what I don't know. Even psychics don't know stuff. I'm just telling you that. In general, with my abilities, I can see karmic agreements in people's auras. I have seen stuff like that. I can tell it's a karmic relationship a lot of times by someone, if there's a pattern. When you see a pattern, a lot of that is karma. It's frustrating because I don't know why this karmic game has been set up to be so hard with relationships. I do know that the concept of karma itself is based on past lives and past souls' experiences. And so there is something about maybe our soul, our collective soul, and all of our souls getting to a point of needing to go through a period of self-reflection to see outside this very narcissistic, I want to have a relationship now in this moment kind of thing. It's immature. To me, it's immature. And the weird thing is I came to that realization myself where it's like, I went through this whole weird period of time where it was like, I wanted what I wanted when I wanted it. And I was frustrated that I wasn't seeing the results of my hard work. I wasn't getting what I wanted from the universe. And I hated the universe for that. But the funny thing is that it was a very immature perspective. This very I have to have it now, like a kid, wanting the candy cane right now in this moment. They don't want it tomorrow, they want it now. And so there's this maturity thing that I think is happening with our souls. There's also this very looking in the mirror thing that has always been in play because of the very nature of our consciousness. Consciousness having been fractured many, many times, and everybody's a mirror of each other, right? So that has been in play for a long time. And it's possible that souls have gotten to a point in their karmic existence that there's things that they need to see, finally, that they haven't seen before, in other people, in themselves. It's funny because there's this whole thing that's been happening with social media, in the sense that social media has really taken over our focus. We've been becoming engrossed in social media and putting ourselves out there. And I mean, myself included, I spent 3 years of my life basically being social media guru, doing nothing but recording videos, talking to clients, and posting stuff. So, I mean, I can't talk, because that's what I was doing. So I'm just saying that social media in itself, though, is about looking in the mirror. And there's something that our soul wants us to learn karmically about looking in that mirror and seeing either who we really are, maybe who we wish to be, seeing something more than just the fairy tale. I definitely feel like there's different options for humanity. Going down this certain timeline or this path, let's say a path, one potential outcome, where it's almost total self-absorption. How is it possible for people to have relationships when they are completely absorbed on their cell phone with social media? It's total self-absorption, or that's what I want to call it. It's total self-absorption. Relationships are going to get much harder in that timeline, in that one potential outcome. The other timeline I see is where people, I don't know, I have to say that it kind of gets worse before it gets better. It kind of gets worse for a period of time where there's self-absorption, but then there's like maybe a crack. I don't know, my guide's showing me like a crack where it's like a split where something changes. And I'm not sure what it is that changes it. It could be, I know it's going to sound really weird, and a lot of like predictions are out there about stuff like this, but like it could be like a power thing, like a power outage. And I'm seeing a crack, but it's like dark in that crack. So it's like a period of time when we go through where there isn't social media, or you can't plug into anything, or you can't get online or do stuff like that. And it's just sort of like suddenly in that little window of time, people's focus starts to change, and maybe they look over at their partner. Maybe they do something different. I don't know how that would occur because I'm not, in that time, necessarily in that time potential. I mean, I could be, but it's just more like I can just see that as a potential, and I see that people would change. There'd be a shift in our focus. I also see my guide said the robotic future. And the robotic future isn't self-absorption exactly. It's just more, it's just different. It's just different. It's a different kind of thinking. That future really kind of freaks me out. I don't like it at all. I really am hoping that it doesn't shift in that direction. There is kind of like, my guide wants me to talk about this, but it's hard for me to believe that it's possible. So I guess I'm seeing like four main potentials. My guide is showing me 4. So the fourth one would be kind of like, you might call it like a utopian type future, where essentially people kind of get a clue somehow, and I don't really know how that would happen. They get a clue. They start to see that this is not all there is. That there's more than this game, that there's more, and that they are capable of having more. It's almost like the light in people's consciousness needs to go on. People need to see it. The hard part is getting people to see it, because most people are right now at this time are not psychic, so they don't see it. It could be from increased psychic ability or increased psychic awareness. There may be some planetary shift. I'm getting like a planetary thing, actually, which allows, I'm getting a huge tingle on that. Wow. I'm getting a huge tingle on that. So to me, that's what it is. So like, essentially, it's going to be like one of the fourth potential for an utopian type future is where a planetary shifts into some really different positive alignment, where people become essentially more psychic, and they see things for how they really are. They see past this game, and they pass this illusion, and they don't allow the bullshit anymore. And they say, you know what, we're past this point. Now, some of you are going, well, that's already happening because, you know, there's a lot of, not rebellion, resistance, you know, all the kind of stuff that's happening politically. And I'm not saying that that's bad, and I'm not saying that's not moving us there. I really feel like it has to be much stronger, though. Like, you know, it has to be like on a group level where it's like the veil or the curtain or something is lifted a little bit. And people see things differently. It's a shift in perspective, and priorities, and like a wake-up call. It is kind of like a wake-up call. I know that Uranus just gone into Taurus. I do feel it actually has to do with more Taurus, which is really weird. I'm getting a Taurus energy. It has to do with Taurus. It could be one of the planets moving into Taurus. I don't feel like it's Uranus in Taurus, although this could be part of the beginning of it. It's another planet that moves into the sign of Taurus. That's the thing that I'm picking up. I don't know when that would be. I don't know. I'm not, you know, there's astrologers who see things like many years ahead, and I haven't done that kind of research. So I'm sort of just channeling this right now, and so, you know, we could look that up and see when's the next positive planet going to be in Taurus. I don't know. It could be Jupiter moving into Taurus too. I don't know how long that would be from now, though. Because right now, I think Jupiter's in the sign of Scorpio. Could be some time. I don't necessarily feel like it's Jupiter, though. I don't know. I have to look at it. There could be some other thing too. But there is the sign, something about the sign of Taurus, that's coming through. So yeah, there's those 4 potentials. I guess my question to you guys is, what do you want to see happen? Could you possibly see yourself in like a utopian type future where there's more balance, where love is more the focus, where, you know, it's less this flat screen technology, you know, thing? Do you see yourself doing more outside, doing more with nature? Can you see yourself, see yourself in a long-term relationship in that future? You know? The one with the robotics, I feel like actually the one with the robots, the future with the robots is like a potential, but I actually think out of the 4 potentials, it's the least likely to happen, and that's weird that I'm going to say that. It's right now, it's the least likely to happen. I hate to say this, the one that's most likely to happen right now is self-destruction. Followed shortly by the potential where there's this power outage thing that happens and everybody kind of wakes up. Followed by the utopian future, followed by robotics. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Now, the universe, you know, things could change. Things could change tomorrow. And I don't want to be like a doom and gloom person. Like, I don't want you to be like, what the hell is she talking about? How could she say that? I think that if we were to really focus our attention elsewhere, not as much on our flat screen life, not as much on ourselves, more on other people, focusing more on relationships, focusing more on the planet. If we did more of that, if we all did more of that, and I feel like a doctor saying you need to diet and exercise in order to lose weight. And people are going to be like, well, we already know that. You know, it's sort of like me telling you what you already know, but don't. I mean, anybody who's ever been to the doctor and they tell them to diet and exercise, they shake their head and nod and they go back to eating the donuts, you know, like the following day. Or they say, okay, I'll diet, but like starting tomorrow, you know, and they eat the potato chips. So it's